This is what always happens before you regret buying a home. And most buyers don't even realize it until it's too late. Buyer remorse doesn't start after the closing, it starts long before you even get to the point where you have an accepted offer. It starts with subtle signs, emotional traps, and pressure that you might not even realize in the moment. In this video, I'm going to break down the typical warning signs I see that a buyer is headed directly for buyer remorse after the closing, and I'm going to talk about what you can do to prevent it. Buyer remorse starts with an emotional buildup, and it's really a combination of three things. Number one, pressure mode kicks in. The first sign is subtle. You're suddenly moving from shopping for a home to chasing a home. Maybe you've missed out on a few opportunities in a difficult market, especially if you're a first-time home buyer in Halifax. As of late, this would be a pretty typical scenario that I see, especially over the last 5 years, as we've had lots of bidding wars as an example. Maybe the market is tight. Maybe the interest rates are starting to move up and you're feeling the pressure. Maybe all your friends are buying, or maybe your family or your spouse is pushing you to get into the market. This oftentimes leads right down the path to buyer remorse. Suddenly, you're making decisions out of fear of missing out, not logic. And when we're talking about one of the biggest investments of your life, this leads to a lose-lose situation. Number two is the comparison trap. Again, this one has been happening a lot in Halifax over the past 5 years. You see what your friends bought. You see what people are doing on social media. You see somebody coming from Ontario and buying their dream home. Suddenly, you're not buying the right home for you. You're buying the home that you think that you should have based on expectations of others and comparing to what others are doing in their life. This often leads to pushing the budget too far. It leads to settling for an option that may not be right for you, and it adds pressure to the situation, forcing you to rush your decision. This oftentimes leads you straight down the path of buyer remorse. Emotional trap number three, and this is the final one that I often see before buyer remorse starts to show itself. This one is confirmation bias takes over. You fall in love with a home emotionally, so you stop seeing it objectively. Suddenly, the bad layout becomes quirky or charming. Suddenly, the busy road becomes not so bad. And suddenly, the overpriced listing or a listing that's right at the tip of your budget becomes a lot more worth it just to get it done. At this point, you're no longer assessing the home, you're justifying it. And when this starts to happen, buyer remorse is not far behind. So this is how buyer remorse starts, and here's the warning signs that I see time and time again that start to lead me to believe that my client might be going down this path. Number one, you're stretching your pre-approval and your budget to the absolute max. If a home only falls within your budget, if you have interest rates that are coming down or your income is coming up, or if nothing breaks in the home, then it's not the right fit for you. If you're maxing out your pre-approval and your budget way too far, then you're setting yourself up to be house broke, and buyer remorse is often following this pattern. Number two, you start compromising on the non-negotiables. Buyers will often tell me, I would never live on a busy road. I need a good layout. I definitely don't want a north-facing backyard. And suddenly the pressure kicks in and they start to have fear of missing out. They start to have fear of the market adjusting or interest rates moving or whatever the case may be. And then suddenly it's, well, I actually prefer to have a morning coffee, so the north-facing yard isn't too bad. And then suddenly it's that busy road doesn't really bother me too much, or this layout really isn't too bad, it's quirky. And when this starts to happen, that's how you know you're on a bad path. Most buyers that I have worked with that have ever compromised on what they told me up front was a non-negotiable often regret it later, and they say, I should have listened. This is going straight down the path to buyer remorse. Number three, you start to ignore the home's future potential. Today's finishes don't really matter, but the future value and the prospect of value does. So those granite countertops are not really something that you should be super concerned about. The paint colors are not something something you should be super concerned about. A brand new bathroom vanity is not an expensive renovation to do yourself if the one you buy is an older vanity. What matters is the location, the property, the structural integrity, the bones, the school zones, all these things that equate to future value in a home. If you're worried more about today's finish level cosmetically speaking than the fundamentals of what drive long-term home value, then you are certainly on the path to buyer remorse. Number 4, you feel rushed by anyone. Pressure from the market is one thing. Pressure from anyone else is not okay. So if you're feeling rushed because of your real estate agent or because of your friends, your family, or your spouse, then buyer regret is just around the corner. Home purchases made to satisfy somebody else's needs or expectations of you rarely end well. Buying a home is about your journey, your needs, and your wants, and your timeline and how comfortable you feel, not about what other people think. Number 5, you get that pit in your stomach feeling. If you're excited about the fact that you won the offer, but you're not as excited about the house itself, then you know that we have a problem, and that is a red flag. If you have that feeling like something doesn't feel right, or I have that gut feeling, your gut is often right. And if you have that feeling, don't just go through with it anyway because of any of the other things I've talked about on this list. Trust your gut, go with your instincts, do what's right for you, and don't worry about what other people think. If you have that gut feeling that it's not quite the right fit, even after you get an accepted offer, then buyer remorse is almost sure to follow in the months and years after closing. So there's the setup. There's how it happens. It starts emotionally, and then we start to see these warning signs, and that's how you know you're on the path to buyer remorse. And when I'm working with buyers, that's what we're trying to avoid. So here's a few ways that you can make sure that you're not going to end up on the path to regretting your purchase later in life. Number 1, identify your non-negotiables before you even start looking. So this would normally be done when I sit down with a buyer for a buyer consult before we even get out and start looking at homes. We're talking about hard lines, okay? It's always easy to say, well, my budget is $750, but I'm pre-approved at $900, and then you get out there and start looking, and all of a sudden that $750 budget becomes $755 or $760 or $765, and you start having that thought process of, well, it's only one extra cappuccino from Starbucks a month at that point, right? But the problem is you can always keep increasing your budget, for example, by $5,000 to $5,000 to $5,000, and you keep having that mindset that, well, it's only an extra $5,000. But at some point, you got to draw the line in the sand. Doing that before you start looking is going to help you tremendously. So when we sit down and have a buyer consult, we're talking not only about budget, that was just my example there, but we're talking about hard lines in the sand. How many bedrooms do you need? How many bathrooms do you need? Are you definitely not interested in a home on a main road because maybe you have young kids, or maybe you work nights and you need to sleep during the day, so you don't want to live on a busy road that's noisy? Maybe you need a fenced backyard for your kids and your dog. Whatever those non-negotiables are for you, let's draw the line in the sand before we even get out and start looking at homes, and you start getting a little bit more emotionally invested in your home purchase. It's really important as a buyer to know the lines that you will not cross before you start looking, and it's important to have that discussion with your real estate agent as well. And to be honest, that looks different for everybody. For some people it might be ABC, and for other people it might be XYZ. It's your journey, whatever your non-negotiables are, based on your budget and your lifestyle and what you're looking to achieve with your home purchase. Number 2, buy based on fundamentals, not finishes. The right home has good bones, good structural integrity, good resale value. It's in a good neighborhood, on a good lot. It's maybe in a good school zone, whatever that looks like for you and your needs. Don't get distracted by new paint and nice staging. A old, dated kitchen in a great neighborhood in a home with good bones is always better than an updated kitchen on a busy road or that's backing onto a railroad track, just as an example. Number 3, buy under your max pre-approval. This is one of the easiest ways to avoid buyer remorse. When you don't stretch your budget to the limit, you'll save more money, you'll sleep better, you'll avoid stress, you'll handle any fixes that are needed in the home more easily, and this is a great way to avoid remorse. Most buyer remorse often comes from the financial side of things, not the home itself. So make sure you set your budget, a hard line in the sand, make sure you stick to it, and make sure that it makes sense for you and your family and your income level and your expenses. Number 4, and this is one I use time and time again, sleep on big decisions. If you wake up the next morning after viewing a home and the excitement is gone, then it probably wasn't the right fit for you to begin with. Patience leads to clarity. Pressure leads to remorse. Number 5, work with somebody who will support you and look out for you, not pressure you. The right agent will stop you from overpaying, from compromising, from rushing, or from ignoring red flags. The right agent will look you dead in the eye and they'll say, hey, I think with your budget and what you're looking for, we can do better here. This isn't the right home for you, and here's why. Even if it means losing a sale. Working with an experienced agent who's going to go about the process properly is a great way to avoid buyer remorse years or months after the purchase. So remember, buyer remorse doesn't start to happen after the closing, it starts long before. And if you can recognize these emotional traps and warning signs early on, you can avoid a purchase that you're going to regret by making smart, informed, and logical decisions. This will ensure that the home you buy not only feels right on day one, but 2, 3, 4, or 5 years down the road. If you're somebody who's looking to avoid buyer remorse and looking for somebody to work in your corner anywhere throughout the HRM, you can reach out to me to help you anytime in the Calendly link below, and you can book a buyer consultation with me on Zoom, or you can reach out to me directly by email and you can book a time to chat. And if you got any value out of this video, all I ask is that you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future content, and that'll help push this out to more people like you who may be interested in getting more information about buying a home in Halifax or Nova Scotia. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your support, and have a great day.